We focus so much of our time on choosing which workout we want to do or the food choices we want to make to fuel our body. But the one powerful and yet often overlooked component to dialing up our commitment to strengthening our health esteem is managing our mindset.
For me, happiness is being infinitely curious. It's constantly learning. It's constantly mastering new and difficult tasks. And yet, many of the things we do to motivate our kids are sapping their desire to learn.
A happy life has more positive than pain. We all have pain. A happy life has meaning and purpose. And a happy life has different experiences that make you psychologically rich. You think happiness comes from meeting other people and society's expectations, but really it comes from creating your own. Here is the simple secret of being happier. Spend time doing things you really enjoy doing. Society tells us what happiness is, what happiness looks like, but what really matters is how you feel.
So if you really wish to have a good day every day, we've got two things we need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to stop outsourcing our happiness and outsourcing our unhappiness onto people and circumstances. In other words, we need to stop attributing our happiness to what's going on externally. And we need to stop blaming others, especially blaming others, for our unhappiness. So for as long as we do that, as long as we're making it the job of people and circumstances to make us happy, or as long as we're making it their fault when we're unhappy, our happiness will be very unstable.
Now, we've all heard that giving makes you happy and it's better to give than receive. But have you actually thought of why? Well, researchers from all over the world have been studying the science and psychology of giving. They've discovered that our brains and our bodies are actually hardwired for giving. When we give, our endorphins kick in, giving us this natural high feeling. They've actually called it the helper's high.
Our oxytocin levels rise.
This would be our love hormone. And for those of you that have been looking for the fountain of youth, it's our body's natural anti-aging remedy.
Managing the community and the tribe that you're in, making sure that you're a good member of that tribe, that you're doing your part. When you're around happy, inspirational people that are successful, it makes you feel better and you get inspired. And if you act on that inspiration, your life will be more fulfilled. And it's not just inspirational in terms of financial success, but in terms of doing difficult things, whether it's running 100 miles, it doesn't pay you a goddamn thing other than the wealth of the knowledge that you can push yourself to such an extreme. Or anything else, whether it's someone who becomes really good at playing chess or someone who's really good at martial arts or whatever it is. There's a great feeling in these overcoming these difficult things, because life is never this just constant state of I'm at a 9 all day, and when I'm with my wife I hit 10. Yay! And I stay like that. That's not real. What's real is like you saying that you went to this monastery and felt all this this angst about meditating and being alone and not having your phone and not having the input. But then when it comes out of it, then you have this reward. So you push through this, and you had these uncomfortable feelings, and you came out of those uncomfortable feelings with this newfound appreciation for time and this respect for your own existence in your own space and carving out 3 hours for yourself a day. That's where it all comes from. It all comes from life lessons, and the lessons are learned through struggle.
Do yourself a favor and me a favor. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Let me tell you why. I spent most of my 20s doing that very thing. Now, I always think of myself as a happy person, but I did fall into these mental traps where I would compare myself to other people. Let's say the job I worked at the time, my 9 to 5 before I started my business. I was at a 9 to 5, and whenever I'd see somebody that what I thought working harder than me get a promotion and I didn't, that would make me miserable. I would get so frustrated because I'm like, wait, how does he deserve that? I'm busting my tail. This guy takes off early. What's going on here? That does no one any good. So what you can do instead is, instead of obsessing over the negativity, why don't you say to yourself this: what did Josh do that maybe I'm not doing? Because it's obviously something my employee is looking for. See what I'm saying? Success leaves clues. If you see someone succeeding, don't compare yourself to them. Figure out what they're doing and how you can do it, and maybe even do it better. It will lead to success and more happiness.
And to dedicate this habit to caring for your relationships might be one of the most powerful actions that you can take when it comes to happiness. So this might be the green smoothie that you've all been waiting for. According to several studies, having functioning relationships is as important, if not even more important, as exercising well and having a good diet. And this can even help us live longer.
Good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. We've learned 3 big lessons about relationships. The first is that social connections are really good for us and that loneliness kills. It turns out that people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected. And the experience of loneliness turns out to be toxic. People who are more isolated than they want to be from others find that they are less happy, their health declines earlier in midlife, their brain functioning declines sooner, and they live shorter lives than people who are not lonely.
And then lastly, fun is joyful. You know, we all so desperately want to be happy. We read books about happiness, we download apps about happiness, but when we are in a moment of having fun, we are happy. So it makes me think that perhaps the secret to long-term happiness is just to have more everyday moments of fun.
Happiness and unhappiness are states of mind. And therefore, their real causes cannot be found outside the mind. So if we have a peaceful state of mind, we will be happy regardless of people and circumstances. If our mind is unpeaceful or agitated, then even if we have very good circumstances, we'll find it impossible to be happy.
In a study from Harvard University, which began already back in 1938, researchers followed over 700 people to understand what it is that makes us flourish as people. So they followed these participants for decades, and in 2012, the results came. The researchers found that happiness doesn't come from wealth, it doesn't come from fame or working hard, it comes from relationships. And it's not about the number of friends that you have or whether or not you're in a committed relationship with a partner. They found that it's the quality of the relationship that counts. Being able to be vulnerable, listening, and sharing what's close to your heart. That's what matters.
That it's not just the number of friends you have, and it's not whether or not you're in a committed relationship, but it's the quality of your close relationships that matters. It turns out that living in the midst of conflict is really bad for our health. High conflict marriages, for example, without much affection, turn out to be very bad for our health, perhaps worse than getting divorced. And living in the midst of good, warm relationships is protective. Once we had followed our men all the way into their 80s, we wanted to look back at them at midlife and to see if we could predict who was going to grow into a happy, healthy octogenarian and who wasn't. And when we gathered together everything we knew about them at age 50, it wasn't their middle-aged cholesterol levels that predicted how they were going to grow old. It was how satisfied they were in their relationships.